Welcome, everybody. I've got my friend Kevin Poland here with American Pest on today for the podcast. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Rusty. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing well. I feel like I'm missing out just hearing you and Maria, who's joining us as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, I feel like you guys like grew up on the same street, like ate at the same restaurants. Like y'all are sharing all these little tidbits. And I always give Maria a hard time that she's from Kentucky, but that's not the case, is it?
We'll have to bring Rusty to the DMV. Do you know what that means, Rusty?
I do not. What is that?
The DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So anytime anyone asks you where you're from, it's just we're from the DMV. Pick and choose where you're from.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Kevin, man, really appreciate you being here. You and I met, I believe it was in Utah, right?
Yes, sir.
For the first time. So Lee and I, our president, we were in Utah for this past summer for an awesome event for the celebration of CentraCon's 25th anniversary, I believe it was. And so I was very fortunate to network with Kevin and a lot of awesome CEOs and pest control owners from all over the country. We got to talking with you and, really enjoyed our time and it kept up since then. And I got to see you in Pest World a little bit. How was Pest World?
I thought it was awesome. I got to do a couple of the educational sessions and, the vendor and the expo floor is obviously always a good time walking around and sort of getting an opportunity to see some of the new products and familiar faces, obviously, as well. So I had a blast.
Man, I know we did too, and it's almost like when you first see the agenda, you get a little overwhelmed, and then by the end of the trip, I'm like, man, I could have spent 3 more days here. I mean, even just in the vendor fair itself,
sure. I
mean, you could spend 3 full days just walking around talking to the different vendors and creating those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, well, so set the stage for us here. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of American Pest. You guys are a fast-growing company, a pretty large company here in the United States. Set the stage for us and let our listeners know kind of an overview of American Pest. Maybe the size of you guys, employees. What your geographic area is.
Sure. So American Pest was a family owned and operated company, started in 1925, family owned and operated all the way up to 2016. So in 2016, American Pest was purchased by Anticimex. So we became a part of the Anticimex network, which has been an absolutely incredible journey. One that has obviously merged a lot of businesses together, and it's been an awesome experience. Just adding more technology and different things to the business in general. Right now, American Pest is just responsible for really Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So we have 4 brick and mortar locations, and we operate sort of in a decentralized model with a branch structure. Technically, we have 7 branches that operate out of those 4 locations, but the 4 locations, one is in Fulton, Maryland, sort of in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. The second is in Springfield, Virginia, just, kind of covers that Northern Virginia territory and also helps support Washington, D.C. We've got two more locations, one in Charlottesville, that sort of covers that western side of Virginia, the 81 corridor that runs north and south there, and then another office in Richmond, Virginia, that sort of covers that 95 corridor that runs north and south as well. So right now we got right around 400 total employees. Obviously about 75% of those are field facing employees that are going to do the applications out in the field or work with and support team members out in the field. And then we've got the other 25% of the employees is more of our indirect cost centers. So we're talking customer care, inside sales, finance, human resources, marketing teams as well that, support the back end logistics of the organization too.
That's awesome. And how much revenue are you guys projected to do this year? Is that something you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, we should do somewhere in between 58, $59 million this year.
Wow.
When American Pest was purchased several years ago, when the Nixon family still owned American Pest, we were probably somewhere in the ballpark of 12, $13 million. So
Wow.
it's been a incredible journey of just sort of mending the different organizations together, innovative pest management and triple S, and just some of the acquisitions that we've done along the way have just been absolutely incredible. Not only from a revenue and a customer perspective, but then the employee perspective as well. Several of our team members, branch managers, technical staff, fleet logistics, staff as well, are still obviously with us and major contributors to the organization today.
And that's awesome. That's a pretty tremendous growth. And where does that put you guys on the PCT top 100?
Uh, I actually have some. I'm looking over to my right because I have the PCT top 100, and I know that's something that's obviously near and dear to your heart, as well, as I've kind of followed your guys' journey and see the things that you're posting in your office too. So I think Anticimex is probably breaking into that top 7, top 5 in general. So American Pest is probably closer to the top 20. I'd have to go grab it. My eyes aren't as good as they once were. But I think we're probably, pushing the envelope and trying to, I think my personal goal, and one that I talk about with the team here in general, is finding a way where American Pest can break that $100 million mark. And strangely enough, our 100-year anniversary would actually be in 2025 here as well. So
Wow.
it's 100 by 100 years, Rusty. That's my goal, and something that's been rattling around in my head quite a bit.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you guys are tracking your goals and your milestones. And when the PCT top 5,000 comes out, we're hoping we can be on there somewhere. Until then, we are gunning for the 100. And hopefully we'll be there one day. But
I
until
don't know,
then,
man. I've checked out your website and have seen sort of the market leader positions, and I have a feeling Pest Control is going to be breaking into some new markets before long here, man.
well, we're trying. Until then, we're just going to ride your coattails and learn as much as we can from the people like you that are blazing the way. So tell us about your journey, man. That's a big part of this podcast is, we document our journey as a startup company, and
Sure.
and we like to learn from others and hopefully create value for people that are listening to this. Tell us about Kevin's journey and how you got to where you are today.
All right. Well, it's a little bit of a wild one, so I hope you're comfortable. So we'll start a little bit before I actually joined American Pest. Actually, I graduated from Shepherd University in 2010 with a degree in sports communication. And at that point in time, we were talking before the podcast started. I decided to take a little sabbatical at the beach and lived in Bethany Beach, just for a summer, waiting tables and probably having a lot of fun as well. And I threw my internship in there as well, to be totally clear. But I did that in the summer of 2010, and I kind of didn't really have an idea of where I wanted to go with my education and kind of how I was going to enter into the workforce. So I knew obviously sports teams were something that I was super passionate about. I always grew up just loving ESPN and any sporting event that I could go to, whether it be just a minor league baseball team or all the way up to professional sporting events. Obviously several teams in the Washington D.C. And Baltimore areas as well. So got that degree in sports communication, and one of the things at that point in time that maybe some folks don't know is that American Pest was a sponsor of the Nationals and Capitals. So My last name is Poland. My mom's last name is actually Nixon. So, so the Nixon family, my mom's first cousin, Matt, was the owner of American Pest when I applied back in 2010. So a lot of people don't know that I didn't actually tell Matt that I applied. I kind of wanted to earn it myself. And, I was just trying to figure out how, I could start, entering the workforce and figuring out what a career was going to be from there. So I applied to an opening marketing position at American Pest. Matt sent me a message and said, hey, you could have told me that you applied, basically. So I kind of, kicked open the door with that, had a meeting with the marketing manager at the time, and ended up starting as, I think my title was event marketing specialist, which theoretically was an intern. I was responsible for going to property management association events, chamber events, a lot of the things that you guys do as well. So I lasted in the marketing department for a whopping 9 months. I had a great time in there. I was working on some social media, got to attend a lot of different events and things like that. And then we had a position open up in our organization because at the time we were a Copasan company. So we serviced a lot of obviously big brands, Starbucks, Best Buy, Home Depot, things like that. We had the position open up for Copasan liaison. And I sort of jumped at it because it was an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the business and make some more money, right? I think I was 22 at that time. So I was, interested in seeing the progression that my friends were making and everything there. I was a Copasan liaison for about 2.5, 3 years. During that point in time, we won Copasan Partner of the Year for our, category and the size that we were. I won Administrative Champion of the Year, which was a pretty cool accomplishment as well. Just sort of, just following Copasan's sort of guidelines for KPIs. And it to me was, something I talk about with our team quite a bit is gamification. Like, how can we make it fun and how can we, make it competitive? And I played 4 years of college soccer at Shepherd University. Like, I'm a competitive guy. Obviously, I love sports. Like, I want to see my sports teams, excel and exceed. So I sort of brought some of that mentality into that position, stack ranking ourselves against the other organizations across the country. So did that for 2.5 years. And I think my cousin, Matt, grabbed a hold of me and said, all right, you're doing all right with this. Like, is this what you want to do for a while? So we had a conversation and he said, hey, if you really want to learn the business, take some time out in the field. So I ended up becoming a service manager in Baltimore. So I had an opportunity to work out in the field on a regular basis. And at that point in time, a lot of those accounts in Baltimore were Copasan accounts. So I was already familiar with the protocols and procedures and standards and everything. I understood the response times, and it was a really easy transition for me. I just had to learn pest control, and learn how to manage a team too. So thankfully I had regular conversations with the technicians in those areas, and it was pretty easy and seamless transition. So was a service manager for about 2.5 years. Had learned the ropes out there. Things were sort of transitioning for American Pest. And then there was an opportunity to take over the customer care center. So I know that's a bit of a strange transition, but, kind of going from field application and then, back inside again, but with the Copasan liaison position, understanding our phone systems and logistics, and we're a PestBack, WorkWave company. So I already understood all that. Then I had the handheld experience out in the field, actually saw pest control in real life, and was in apartment units and restaurants and everything, residential homes as well. So I took that and brought that back into the communication center. The communication center, more gamification, at that time, the communication center was kind of struggling with, some of the expectations and meeting, customer, really providing an exemplary customer experience. So, we brought some fun in there. we did have to make obviously some tough changes on the team and things like that, but we improved our answered call rates, and we started having fun, and that was our first opportunity during my time there. I actually got to set up our remote worker program, which who obviously knew a couple of years later we were going to go through something like the COVID.
No kidding.
So
well, you were ahead of the curve there. Then you were prepared for COVID without even knowing. You were going to be prepared for it, right?
I got lucky. My boss at that point in time, that was something that was near and dear to her heart, and something that she wanted to make sure that we were sort of evolving the communication center, and so that was actually one of the projects that I was assigned, is how can we get this figured out. I remember it was in the DC area, obviously we get a little bit more snow maybe than down south there. Yeah. So we had a snowstorm that was projected that actually have 3 feet of snow, and that was our first opportunity to keep the communication center open on a day that typically we would have just closed it. And I remember I think we only took maybe 100 or 125 phone calls or something that day. It was super slow. I think there were maybe 3 or 4 of us that were on the phones, and I think we had like an 85-90% answered call rate, and we're just overly excited about it just because it was possible. We knew it was possible from that point on, and it was something that it's just early stages of obviously remote working and trying to understand the logistics and the phone systems that go into that. But just an incredible experience to be able to work with some of the folks that are on our team and execute that. After the communication center, we were sort of full-fledged into Anticimex at that point. Had a really big year in 2018 and 2019, doubled the size of the company. So we were breaking up into a branch structure. So I took on the role of regional manager after that, which is basically just a supporter of the branch managers at that point in time. So we broke up into a branch structure at that point in time that had 8 branches. Today we only have 7, but just breaking up into the different geographies and setting up the infrastructure in order to sort of scale the business and get it larger and larger. So I was the regional manager that morphed into vice president of service delivery. Just being totally honest, there wasn't really much change in what was going on as far as responsibilities there. And then in December of 2021, I was approached to take the helm here at American Pest and sort of take over as platform president in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and lead the organization, hopefully for several years to come. So, it's been a heck of a few years, and one that I'm exceptionally grateful for. Lot of different hats, and just looking back on the experiences in each of those different positions, I think that's what's set me up to be successful today, and certainly thankful for several leaders, my cousin and folks like David Billingsley and Mike Schmidt and different folks in the Anticimex network, Bill Talon, now kind of leading the way as president of North America. So it's been a heck of a ride, man, and I've got a long way to go.
Well, you guys obviously have made tremendous growth and strides as a company, but to hear, if I remember correctly, you said you graduated college in 2010, right?
That's correct.
So you have not been in the workforce that terribly long to be president of this platform with let me get this right, Maria, the DMV. Did I say that right?
That's right.
The DMV area. I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean, to be leading an organization with 400 employees, I mean, that's quite an accomplishment, at your age. And you just gave a shout out to 3 or 4 people that have, and I'm sure there are countless others that have helped you along the way. The one thing I talk about a lot is finding mentors, and it's more challenging, I think, for the entrepreneurs or the small business owners who, sometimes you find it a little lonely, right? Because you're not part of a bigger company where you have people above you or mentors, right? And so you really have to be proactive in seeking those out. what are some ways that you have developed professionally, either within the structure or outside the structure, that that you gained additional knowledge and developed your leadership skills? What are some ways you've sort of sharpened your iron over the years?
Yeah, great question. I think I'm probably a pretty naturally inquisitive person, so I'm just very curious all the time, and I like to learn. So it's actually a stark contrast from what I was in college to who I am now.
Guilty,
I
guilty.
probably spent a little bit too much time having fun, but now, like, there's different things that obviously, self I'm self-taught in several different things. Like, I have to adapt on the fly and find resources and read articles and consume information in order to sort of hone my skill set in different ways. I would mention a couple of other things as well, Rusty. I am part of a Vistage network as well, so I know there's different organizations. I've been in the Vistage network for almost 5 years now, starting in an emerging leader program, moving up to sort of an executive or middle manager level, and now I'm in a CEO group as well, that sort of helps me navigate tough problems, and I have additional leaders that I can sort of call on and ask questions to. I think one of the biggest attributes and things that I try to keep in mind is that I don't know everything. And I'm not going to ever pretend like I do. So if I don't know something, sorry, my light goes off here. I promise we pay the bills. I just try to, if there's something I don't know or don't understand, I do have a fantastic network of individuals that I can lean on for advice, and some of which that have likely been through similar experience as well. So, I just try to be humble and understand that, hey, I'm going to make mistakes. Mistakes are how you learn. And I think that's really important to just put that in perspective. And I try to, just be empathetic to our team members that make mistakes too. That was me coming up in my career, and just daring to innovate and change things is, if you're not willing to break down a boundary, how are you kind of gonna, take that next plateau and move forward once again? So, I think that probably sums that one up.
You and I share a lot of the same, I think, probably mindsets there, in that, I think of, we just serviced our first customer in pest control in, July of this year. So, 2.5 or, years. And how much I know about pest control now. It's only just a little bit more than what I knew 2.5 years ago. Right. And so I was the inquisitive guy who was Googling every pest control term. I've talked about on prior podcasts, like how to start a pest control company, or what products to offer, or how do you hire a technician, all these things. And then what I found is, after getting in the industry, just being proactive and doing what we're doing now, right? It's networking. It's making the connection and following up with that relationship. And I think I think I've found, as building out a leadership team, and that's the thing that is kind of hard to instill that quality. I guess I think it's kind of naturally in some people, but I do think it's something that people can learn, right? So they can take that, the problem solving mentality, and to see an opportunity, even if you don't have a clue. And you mentioned it, you can lean on people, right? There's no reason to reinvent the wheel.
I think you made a great point there. It's something that I've kind of talked about, with our leadership team, is I don't want 10 Kevins sitting in a room with the same exact opinion, the same exact experiences, right? We need a Maria, we need a Rusty, we need different folks in the rooms that come from different backgrounds and different experiences with different skill sets, to make one collective team. If there were 10 or 12 of me, we'd all think the same way and have the same ideas on how to get things done. And that's just sort of, those different perspectives. I've always, had a strong belief of, bringing different people with different expertise and different backgrounds into an organization is what makes one incredibly strong, right?
No doubt, no doubt. Let me ask you this. Let's say you're starting a pest control company, and you're starting from scratch, right? You're starting
Sure.
with nothing, and where do you see the industry go? And I ask a lot of our guests this question because I'm always inquisitive about the future of not just pest control, but just home services in general, or just business in general as consumer behavior changes. What are some ways that you would start your own company, or advice that you would give to someone starting a company on things you could do differently now, knowing what you know?
Um, Man, that's a good question. I think for me, it always goes back to the people. Not that, not taking away anything from, the technical folks and entomologists and the value that they bring to different organizations. But, I've just been always a huge on customer experience and the delivery of your
Mhm.
services on a regular basis. So, finding the people that share some of those same ideals, and just making sure that they are, contributing to making sure that the customer experience overall, is just at one that is absolutely exemplary. Going above and beyond. It's simple things like we all talk about picking up the newspaper on and walking up to the front door, moving the trash can that's on the side of the road onto the side of the house, and just doing, that one little extra thing each and every time for your customers. I think that's what sort of separates, the good from the great. I think everyone, we all have the same resources, and we all, have access to vendors and some of the same things that these days. So how can we sort of differentiate ourselves amongst one another to take that next level? And some of that is sort of like soliciting feedback. We're a huge net promoter score company. We always ask the question on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, how likely are you to recommend American Pest Services to a friend or colleague? And it's not just because we want a good score, it's because we want the information to improve
Right.
on a regular basis. So those are some of the things that we talk about, at least internally, of how we can sort of differentiate and provide additional value to our customers, so that retention rates are better, so that we have opportunity, for our team members to sort of expand and grow into different roles. The trickle down effect on just providing exemplary customer service, Rusty, I think is something that doesn't get talked about enough.
Absolutely. And as a leader of the organization, I'm not saying all the weight, but I'd say most of the weight, falls on your shoulders, right? To take the vision of the company and to set the culture for the organization. What are some ways that you found over the years that you've been able to drive, not just culture, but maybe at times a change in culture, right? I mean,
Sure.
as the industry changes, or as maybe business objectives change, culture sometimes has to shift to adapt to that. What are some ways you found that? Because I can imagine we've got 22, 23 people that we're trying to do this with. I can imagine you multiply that to 400 employees, the challenge. What are maybe some nuggets or pieces of advice you could share with us on that?
Yeah, got a couple. One of the things that we do internally, and this was started years ago, with David. He started something we call virtual coffee. We do it twice a month. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I get on with a couple of team members and we just give monthly updates. So, it's something really simple, but it's something that team members need on a regular basis. They want to know the direction, they want to know the vision, they want to know the performance of the company. There's a lot of things going on in the economy. They want to know that we're healthy and improving and continuing to grow. So just I think idea sharing and having that information, and then data transparency as well is, I think, another thing that we are really focused on. It's a gamification that I talked about earlier. Is it, if are we doing a collections blitz, or are we, just trying to monitor how we're doing and seeing if we can improve it to that next level. And then, it's taking, stack rankings for the technicians, who's got the least amount of, callbacks, and how can you share that information and use data for folks to improve. I think we talk about that. Certainly, I'm a millennial. I've heard all the junk that there is on millennials. Here I am. I
Here
own
I
it.
am.
I don't have a problem with it in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things that I crave as a millennial, right, is just constant feedback. It's not that I want you to, tap on my shoulder and tell me how I'm doing. If I'm doing a great job, I'll take the criticism as well. I just want to know how I'm doing. So if there's a way that I can improve, a metric that you feel like I'm not doing the best in, that, really would drive better performance in our organization, then I want to know about it, because I have sort of an insatiable desire to fix it and make sure that, we can improve our performance on a regular basis and be the best that we can be. Reaching $100 million and talking about $100 million, that's a lofty goal. And it's not one that, I'm going to shy away from. And I know that's sort of the competitive nature inside of me, but, I think that's a massive opportunity for us, not only to achieve some of the goals that Anticimex has put into place, but to achieve some of the personal goals of our team members as well. That's someone moving from a technician to a service manager, or a service manager to a branch manager, or a customer care team member to a customer care lead. You're talking about creating opportunities and new jobs for your people when you're talking about achieving financial goals as well.
Absolutely. How do you take that mindset, and how do you instill that in the organization when you're trying to drive, big company goals, right? And at the end of the day, you've heard the term probably with them, right?
Yep.
What's in it for me? So how do you take that and incorporate that with a team member? They could be entry level, they could be at whatever level within the company, to where they have buy-in, and one of our core values is ownership, right? So how can they take that ownership when they're not the actual owner of the company?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think WIFM is a great acronym, and one that you sort of you got to pay attention to. I think it's something similar that Pruitt has done as well, as sort of creating career tracks, as well. As career tracks are really, really important for folks to understand that, hey, if I'm going to be in pest control, that's great. Well, what am I going to be doing in the next 2, 5, 10, 20, 30 years as well? Is this a company that's, going to be focused on long-term growth and the ability for me to provide for my friends or family or children, or, whomever? So really understanding that, hey, we have different career tracks that you can take if you're interested in customer care and, being on the phones and coaching team members inside. A larger organization can certainly provide additional opportunities that way. We do have, the potential to, obviously have a sort of a field track. We've got a couple of examples of folks inside our internal organization, that were technicians 5 or 6 years ago, and they're branch managers now. And obviously that there's huge steps in pay that come with that are beneficial to family, but sometimes it's not even about the pay. I think different people have different motivations. My goal was always to continue my growth in my career, and not in my wildest dreams did I necessarily think I would end up in this seat 12 years later, but here I am. And I think some of that is just, showing folks that I truly do care about the organization. And it's not just about me, it's caring about, our team members, taking that next step. I want to know how families are doing at home. I want to know, how did the baseball game go on Saturday? Like, all that information is really important. I think that sort of ties in together of sort of the culture of how we can, if you're great at home, I think the performance here is going to be exemplary or better than it maybe would if things were off track. So, providing additional opportunity for our team members on a regular basis to take those next steps, Rusty, I think is what it's all about.
Completely agree. And I would say that's something, whether you got 400 employees or 4 employees, I think that's something that anyone can take away, right? And you could be yourself and one other technician, right? And you're 2, and you're trying to get to the next step of having a team of 4, maybe even to kind of remove yourself as an owner from the day-to-day, maybe the service side of the business, so you can work on the business a little bit more. But being able to show that vision to that one employee you have of where they can go is still just as important at that point as it is, 400 employees later. I mean, you still have to have the vision to paint that for your team, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it's especially in service related industries, right? Like the people are the ones that are out there on the front lines and delivering, delivering our services or answering the phone calls. And I know, we can say our jobs are super important, but I would argue that, particularly I've always had a fondness for customer care representatives and technicians. Especially in this organization, I think those are the backbone of what we do, and how we, portray ourselves to the public in general, protectors of public health, and just making sure that, we're doing the right thing when no one's watching is really what it's all about. And I think when you have, team members that buy into that and know that, hey, we're all pulling in the same direction for one goal, that's when you start to see some, crazy organic growth, and just you start to click on all cylinders, and then it becomes fun, man. You really start to have a good time, and team members are having a good time, and people are making bonuses, and families are happy, and that's what it's all about, is enjoying coming to work every day, and knowing that, hey, you spend a lot of time with the people that you're around on a regular basis. So how can you make the best of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's transition real quick. Talk about NPMA. We talked about that earlier. You serve on the Leadership Networking Council. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us about that. You've talked about networking and relationships, and tell us about your experience with that.
Yeah, I think I'm 2 years into serving on the Leadership Networking Council. So, obviously one of the big agendas for the Leadership Networking Council is Academy, with NPMA. So I got the opportunity to be a team captain last year for the blue team. Just want to certainly give them a shout out. Academy is obviously a fantastic event, one that I'm actually getting ready to go on a trip next week to game plan for 2023. So I'm excited about that.
Which will be, where is it in 2023?
2023, I think it might be, is it Arizona? I think it's in Arizona.
So my first academy was Arizona, representing yellow team. What's up? You're talking about getting out of your comfort zone. Wow. I mean, I had no idea what to expect, and everybody kept saying academy. It was great. It's awesome. But wow, once you put on that colored t-shirt and you get around your teammates for the week, man, it's you have no option but to learn how to network.
Yeah, you got to engage. I think you got to you got to sign up for at least an event or two. Uh-oh. You guys there?
Hit resume, and I'll pick it back up.
All right.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So we just had a little break in technology, and I think our internet just went down, but we are back. And Kevin, I'm not sure where you got cut off, but I know we were talking about Academy.
Yeah, no, I think Academy, I think, is all about getting involved in making sure that you sort of immerse yourself in the experience overall. Just participating in events, signing up and meeting different people, and really just trying to make sure that you network with folks across the country. Obviously there's a ton of different pest control organizations, a lot of really, really smart people in our networks and in at the Academy events. So, just making sure that you really come away from the events with a couple of different takeaways. And, I thought, the learning labs and, the different tables that we had set up, particularly last year, were fantastic at just giving folks an opportunity to ask different questions. And the speakers are always fun too. They do a great job with the speakers, and just pulling out a different information that you can sort of bring back home and share with your teams.
For sure. I'll echo all of that and definitely give a plug. And we did not go this year just because of having so much going on. And but I definitely plan on going next year and would like to get some of our team members there. I think it's worth the investment. You know, it's a challenge. It's like I almost want to take every single person in our company to experience that. And I think it's, for those of the listeners who are not in this industry, right? Who, and you mentioned it, Kevin, you're networking with other CEOs of other companies, with other industries, not just pest control. I think you can learn a lot, outside of your own industry. For me, as an example, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, before I had any clue I would ever be in the pest control industry, that's just an example of trying to find resources to help learn just that inquisitive nature. One of the best things I did was come across NPMA, right? We've got a state association that's getting stronger, but at the time, there wasn't a lot of information on how to get involved with our state association. And, when I found NPMA, it was like a godsend that, I have all this information, and then being part of the leadership program through the NPMA was an incredible opportunity that really exposed our network and got me involved at the different events and whatnot. And I can assure you, I don't care what industry it is, these sort of associations and these groups exist. And again, those who are not in this industry that are listening, I encourage you, whatever you're in, start Googling, get on Facebook, search for groups. And there are groups, and there are people like Kevin and people, Sean Hollis, who we had on here a few weeks ago, your counterpart down here in South in Alabama, in the Southeast. And, those networks exist, but they're not going to just fall in your lap. You have to be inquisitive and proactive to find those things. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree, Rusty. I mean, I'm so thankful for just, the countless number of folks over the years that, I've just been able to ask simple questions to. And I think that's one of the beauties of this industry in general, is you've got a ton of brilliant people that are really open and willing to helping one another. And, the pest control market is obviously very strong. It continues to be strong. It continues to grow. And, I think there's opportunity for all of us out there. And, we want to make sure that, we're being stewards of the industry as well, and providing exemplary care and practical applications, and not doing the right thing. So just helping one another. I've always just really believed in that quite a bit.
One thing you mentioned earlier about doing the right thing, so doing the right thing when no one's looking. And Sean Hollis shared that with us. Part of, Wayne's, who I really look up to their leadership team and the company, what they've done. And I can't remember what on their business card, in one of the far corners, there's a little symbol, and
there you go. I think I got you, Rusty.
There you go. That's it, man. And they talk about, the example he gave us, you've got your technician who's got his hose reel, and he's going to the backyard, and he's trying to treat, X amount of, the property, on, for the lawn, and the hose reel won't quite reach that one back corner, right? Just a small section.
Yep.
Okay. If the technician doesn't treat that section, who's going to know, right? You may not notice it for months, if ever. But it's going back to your truck, it's moving your truck, it's putting it in position to stretch that hose reel. And think about that. By human nature, how many of us, typically, I'm not saying by human nature we're lazy, but we tend to think, okay, well, it's not that
we're in
big
a rush.
That's right. We're in a rush. I'm going to be late. It's going to take an extra 5 minutes. You can justify all these things. I found that really interesting with their culture, at Wayne's, and I'm sure it spills over into yours as well, of doing the right thing when no one is looking. And, kind of wrapping up there, Kevin, if there's anything you want to share on that, because I do think that is a way, our team members, when they truly have ownership, they're going to do that, right? Because most owners are going to pick up that piece of trash when no one's looking, and they're going to do the little extra thing. What are some ways that you've instilled that within your organization?
Yeah, I mean, so I would give probably one example, and I could probably talk about this for another hour if we wanted to go for it, Rusty. But you know, we were having a little bit of a retention problem at one point here at American Pest, and I decided I worked with my director of marketing, and she, you know, installed a I forget what she called it. I think it's a hook maybe on my email address, and or an automation where if a customer canceled, they got an email from me. You know, at first it was completely overwhelming, but we started understanding, hey, where were we having some problems, and what were different areas that we needed to improve upon. You know, and I started personally responding to customers every single day. You know, sometimes we'd get, you know, 5 cancellations, sometimes we get 10, sometimes it would be a horrible day and we'd have 20. You know, it'd be 20 emails for me to respond to every night. But you know, I wanted to be a part of the solution, but in responding to those emails and taking the extra time, you sort of learned where we can do things a little bit better, and you learned you know, so about some of the things that your customers are going through as well. Is, you know, people are making decisions on buying groceries or continuing service for pest control right now, so it helps
Mhm.
you put, you know, things into perspective and understand. You know, and kind of getting back to your point, I mean, I had a gentleman that responded to an email and said, Kevin, I'm so sorry. I absolutely love you guys, but our house caught on fire. You know, and that was just devastating for me to, you know, receive that sort of feedback. So,
Sure.
you know, instead of just saying, you know, responding, you know, I sent the guy $100 gift card and said, hey, like, let's do something just a little bit extra. You know, you know, he wrote me back this probably 3 paragraph message that was completely unnecessary, something I didn't need. But, you know, it's just sort of instilling those values in your team members that, you know, do the right thing when no one's watching. You know, that's an opportunity where someone's clearly going through something much bigger than you can ever imagine. And, you know, of course, we don't want them to cancel our pest control service, but, you know, what pest control can we even provide at this point in time? You know, you obviously,
Sure.
you know, we have teammates down in Florida that have been through, you know, some awful stuff this year, and, you know, throughout the Gulf Coast, and, you know, just different areas in Texas. We've seen it years over year, you know, year over year here, that you know, there's a lot more to life than just worrying about that next buck. You know, I have to imagine that the gift card alone will probably net me a couple of customers down the line just by doing the right thing. So you know, that's kind of what we talk about, and coach our team members. You know, if somebody needs help carrying in groceries, or they need help, you know, doing something while you're on site, just do it. If that means you miss a stop for the day, communicate it to your service manager. We can move it. People understand. So you know, I think that's what it's all about, and just making sure that our customer base understands that we're here for them when things are rough too, and we understand that you got to make decisions that you know, are in the best benefit of your family.
For sure, man. That what a great. Let's cut
Great.
that, Marie. What a great way to wrap this up, man. I think that just sums it up. And man, I want to thank you for taking time. I know you've got to hop off here in a second to another appointment, which means you're probably going to play golf since it's Friday and it's a
Not
beautiful day,
quite,
probably.
buddy.
It's a beautiful day at the DMV. Also, I know you guys are both from the same area because you both say folks, Folks, folk. Uh, we call them folks down here in Alabama. But anyway, appreciate your time, man. Appreciate you giving back. Appreciate you sharing. Obviously, we're here if we can ever, you know, do anything for you or anybody in your organization. And man, I look forward to watching you guys grow and getting to know you better, you know, as we both take our journeys, man.
Cool.
You better invite us to that 100-year birthday.
Yeah.
We'll be there. We can
Oh,
show
we're
Rusty
we're
around
gonna
the
have a big
DMV.
party. Don't worry.
Yes.
All right. Well, Kevin, hey, enjoy your day, man. We appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you as well.
All right,
Bye.
take care.